Hello everyone, this is Howie. I'm welcoming my friend Robin Ren to my office, GN Digital. I just told Robin that this is a historical building because 30 years ago, by the way, literally 30 years ago this week, Netscape went IPO in this building, and we all know that Netscape had a pretty significant impact to Silicon Valley. You know as much Silicon Valley as I do, right?
Yeah. It was a very short-lived few years, but yeah, it had definitely a very outsized impact.
But it really marks the beginning of the internet, right? Brought internet to the large population, and then started the entire internet, right? All the companies, Amazon, everything, Yahoo came after that, and then of course we know the rest of the story, Google of the world. So this is a historical week in some ways, right? 30-year anniversary. I'm so glad you are here with me. But today we are not talking about internet. We are not even talking about AI, believe it or not. I usually only talk about AI, but today the reason I brought you here is you are doing something fantastic, and I thought, wow, this is amazing, because you were doing you were with Elon Musk doing the Tesla, right, production, worldwide sales. You were the worldwide sales head, right, the VP of the worldwide sales for Tesla for some time, and then you kind of semi-retired. Of course, you're doing a lot of other things like the non-profit organization or whatnot. But recently, you told me that you are doing something. I'll let you explain. My oversimplified explanation is convert air into jet fuel, but that's probably oversimplification. Tell us about what you are doing.
Yeah, thanks, Howie. Great to be on this podcast. Something always got me thinking. What is our place in technology, in history, in the current generation, among future generations, especially this week, as you said, in this particular building. So much history, so much context. So back to my new company, I started this new company called Carbonology. In Chinese, it's called 碳生万物. It means you can generate many things, 10,000 things to be exact, from carbon, once you have carbon. So Carbonology is a company with the vision to capture CO2 from the air and use that carbon to make things that will eventually replace oil, coal, and natural gas. So we have a big vision, and from a chemistry point of view, it is possible because most hydrocarbon molecules are comprised of three basic elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And with water, you have oxygen and hydrogen, and all you need is to add a little bit of carbon, and with lots of energy, you can make anything. But of course, that's in chemistry in the lab. To make it a real business, we have to not only demonstrate technical feasibility, but also commercial viability. So we have put in a lot of R&D work. We are working with some of the leading technologists in the field, companies, and doing both carbon capture and also carbon synthesis using renewables. And we are in the middle of setting up our first pilot line. This is in Lingang district in Shanghai, in China, and hopefully we'll demonstrate the first end-to-end production line of jet fuel, synthetic SAF, sustainable aviation fuel, by the end of this year.
So literally synthetic jet fuel from air and then sunlight.
So hopefully by the end of this year, you will be able to go on site and see those huge air contactors where we capture air. So these are like huge fans outside of the building, running 24/7, making contact with a large amount of air, and we have chemicals and absorbent inside that takes CO2 out of the air. The CO2 concentration in the air is still very low in absolute terms. Relative terms, it has come up a lot in the last 200 years, but in absolute terms, it's still very low. It's about 420 parts per million. So we need to do a lot of work to get the CO2 pick those molecules out of the air. And once we have pure CO2, we turn CO2 into useful ingredients for chemical engineering, such as methane or carbon monoxide. And once we have those ingredients, then we continue work on them and make them into eventual useful things such as jet fuel.
You have a very interesting perspective in one thing, when we discussed this in the past. You mentioned that, the fact that we are kind of generating the energy or generating a lot of the carbon-based goods, right, is in some ways a stupid way of doing things, right, getting things from below the ground. Can you just share with our audience about your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
It's a
so
500-year sort of the perspective.
yeah, so if you zoom out to like more or less, on a granularity of centuries. If you look at human history, the last 200 years have been very peculiar because this is when mankind discovered large-scale industrial use of oil, gas, and coal. Before that, of course, people always knew about this, rock oil, black substance in various parts of the world, but nobody actually made much use of it, let alone industrial production, until very recently. Mankind developed large-scale industrial operations to turn oil, coal, and gas into not only energy, but everything that we know in our modern life. Materials, building materials, synthetic fabric, fertilizer, plastics, let alone fuel for various kinds, diesel, gasoline, and jet fuel. So all these things, we take for granted every day. Literally, if you look around us, everything were essentially invented in the last 200 years. Life 200 years ago and beyond must have been very tough without oil. So this only happened in the last 200 years, and it will not last forever because the way that we as a human being have been digging coal and oil and gas out of the ground and either burn them or turn them into various things, obviously it's not sustainable because we are exhausting the resources much faster than they can reproduce themselves. So if we zoom out, what my prediction is 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, the future humans look back at 20th and 21st century, look at our generation, they will say that these people must have been crazy or stupid to be digging out this black substances out of the ground and burn them and make them into various things. Because obviously there are much better ways of making things and producing energy. So my goal, or the goal of Carbonology, is really to discover or invent or perfect the replacement technologies for, in many ways, to replace oil and coal and gas in their use as a source of carbon for modern society.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure 500 years from now, assuming this path is successful, people will look at the generating the jet fuel from oil, from the air is the natural thing to do, not from the oil, right? That's kind of a going from oil to jet fuel should be should be perceived as the black magic at the time, rather than from oil or from the air and the sunshine to the.
Yeah. So when you start to make the switch, obviously it's not easy because when you start something, anything in technology, it's always more expensive. It's always harder in smaller quantity. So this is why we need startups and kind of a venture capitalist, if you will, people who are willing to take the risk and bet their time and energy and money in making something less certain but potentially can have a big impact.
So you just mentioned the startup. You also mentioned the venture capitalists. So from the VC point of view, there are always three questions people want to ask, right? Why now, and why you? I think you already explained it very well, why you are doing this, right? What's the implication? What's the implication for humans in 500 years from now? Maybe not even 500, maybe 150 years from now. But why you? Because you are the expert in computer science. You got gold medalist in physics, from high school days, our high school days. I never heard that you had tremendous amount of the passion in chemistry. What happened, and then why you?
Yeah, I always joke that typically in a meeting or in a technical session, with our suppliers, usually in a room, I'm the only one who doesn't have a chemistry or chemical engineering background. So I often say I have the chemistry of a high school student. However,
but our high school is so good, so your chemistry is not bad.
Yeah,
no, just kidding. Go ahead.
We came from a very elite high school, but the reason I think I look at this slightly different from most other people is because I try to apply some of the first principle thinking I learned from my Tesla years. So, for instance, I look at hydrocarbon molecules of everything, and I said all you need is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. You can get oxygen and hydrogen from water. All you need is carbon. Put in a little bit of carbon, you can make everything. So that naive thinking would be laughed at in a chemical industry. People say, well, obviously you don't know what you're talking about because it's tremendously difficult to leverage CO2, for instance. CO2 is regarded as inert gas and very, very low energy. So you need to do so much things to activate CO2 into something useful. But I think my thinking is more first principle driven. I said I don't care about how easy or how difficult it is from carbon dioxide, but this is the only way that we can recycle carbon above ground without touching the fossil fuel, as long as it's possible, then we should look into it. I think with the modern industrial scale engineering talents that we have today compared to 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we should be able to solve this with today's technology engineering talents. And I hope I am right because I recruited, I work with a large group of very talented chemists and chemical engineers. They tell me what's possible, what's not possible based on first principle, essentially based on
not based on what we did as an industry before, but based on the basic theoretical
chemistry principles. So you can never lie against science. Science will tell you, ultimately, fundamentally, if something is possible. But as I said, when you have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, theoretically and practically, you can make things happen. And our task is to make those industrial scale at low cost as possible, and also perfect the process. Once we crack the code, and I think there will be a long slope in decreasing the production cost and perfect the process. But we are very good at it. Humankind, especially in the last couple hundred years, are very good at perfecting something that already works. So I think as soon as somebody realizes it is possible, then we'll make it very, very good.
And I think you told me that hopefully by 2027 we're going to have the first jet fuel converted from carbon dioxide.
Yeah, we will have the first commercial scale plant that produces sizable, significant quantity of sustainable aviation fuel from the air, essentially.
And both of us travel a lot, so you think, our flight will be empowered by that.
There will be a few flights powered by our jet fuel.
2027.
Synthetic jet fuel by the end of 2027.
Very much looking forward to it. So we talk about the why and then why you, right? What about why now? Like what kind of a breakthrough you saw, or what kind of the things you have seen? Is that because of ChatGPT or something else?
I think technology progress is never, from A to B, is never a straight line. It always zigzags and also goes up and down. So the technology that leads to this moment, of Carbonology's founding, has been quite long. Actually, I mentioned there are a few companies that pioneered direct air capture technology. I want to name two. Both are very, kind of our inspiration model. One is Climeworks in Switzerland, and the other one is Carbon Engineering, which I had the privilege of serving as an advisor in 2022 to 2023. So those companies did a lot of pioneering work in demonstrating large-scale direct air capture is not only feasible, but you can actually build a business model around. However, I think both of them ran into a lot of challenges, and I think they got definitely a certain level of success, but they both stopped at CO2. They ended up doing something called sequestration, which is burying CO2 underground. So Carbonology essentially take the idea one step further and say we are not going to just bury the CO2 underground. We actually take the CO2 and make it into things that are actually useful to the human
Jet fuel,
society.
as an
Jet
example.
fuel is the first example, but eventually many things.
Clothes.
Fabric, synthetic fabric, building materials, high-end plastics, or even novel materials. So, here's the exciting thing. I think I digress a little bit. Once we perfect the synthetic, technologies of various kinds, we can make new materials that doesn't exist today out of conventional oil and coal. There are many, many possibilities that we will be able to turn CO2 from the air into things that simply do not exist today. And that's the exciting future that I wake up every day and dreaming about.
So you're talking about why, and then why you, and then why now, right? Why it's so obvious, because to make the carbon-based goods a sort of a sustainable business for years to come, you need that, right? And the why you is like you wanted to follow the first principle to go into an industry, right, chemistry industry, and then pretty much reinvent how we think about it. And I'm quite excited, this is the right time. And even though this is not about a program about, or today it's not about AI, I'm curious, how much ChatGPT has helped you? Like, for instance, did that give you enough of enable you to learn things? Or I'm just curious, I know you and I are not talking about AI primarily, but I'm still curious. What's the implication of AI for what you are doing?
Huge. However, I want to point out that it's not usually, the real applications of AI in the future industries is not usually what people think, or in the form of ChatGPT. Of course, ChatGPT or Grok today are very, interesting and exciting, but that's not, I think that's only a tiny bit of what AI's true potential can be in the future. For instance, I give you an example. What we are trying to invent in Carbonology is actually not only ways to make CO2 into things, but also in the process, we want to reinvent chemical engineering as an industry. The way that we need to make things will be so different from conventional chemical, petrochemical, or core chemical practices. The reason is we can obviously, for obvious reason, only use renewable energy. We cannot use coal or gas generated high temperature, high pressure vessels. So that really, on one hand, puts a limit onto what we can do and what we cannot do, but also it gives us incentives to do things that are previously not possible with conventional chemical engineering practices. For instance, we need to be able to couple with unstable renewable energy. For instance, solar and wind energy goes up and down all the time. It's not stable at all. For conventional chemical engineering plants, you cannot have unstable power supply. You have to have 100% 24/7 stable energy. Otherwise, you will cause major production problems. But for us, we will be able to run our plants semi or completely flexibly, with flexible, unstable power. So it's like a natural forest, for instance. When the sun comes out, it produces photosynthesis. When sun goes down, it goes to sleep. So it naturally goes up and down with the energy supply, and that's the model that we are going after. We should be flexible with the energy supply, to a degree, not 100%, but we in the meantime, in that process, we need to reinvent a lot of the processes and a lot of technologies. However, I want to say AI will play a very, very important role in this. I always use autonomous driving as a parallel to this. So essentially, this is very similar to driving a car autonomously by AI on the road, because you have certain traffic rules and boundaries, like guardrails and traffic signs. You need to obey the rules, stay in the lane, get from A to B without hitting anyone. The principle of flexible chemical engineering production is very similar. You have guardrails, you have certain rules, you cannot exceed this, you cannot exceed that, and you have to go from point A to point B. So I think the underlying AI model of running a flexible chemical plant will be very similar in driving an autonomous car, the same computer model. It will also have to be trained in real world scenarios, and the computer will learn how to deal with these on and off situations, and tweak various parameters and know when to turn the wheel, when to step on the gas, when to step on the brake. So it's the same thing. So very similar, parallel. So, this would be one example of how AI will be powering the future industries.
Yeah, in the AI world, the people have been always talking about, with AI, a lot of the jobs will be, or job functions will be eliminated, will be automated, will be done by AI. And people always asking, what are the human going to do? What I heard from you is, whether, even chemical industries are going to be disrupted, right? And then there will be just a new form of the, jobs, or a new form of the factory, new form of the goods we are going to sort of produce. So we are living in a very different world because of AI, now because of the carbonology as well. So thank you for giving us this fantastic talk. From my point of view, as you said at the beginning as well, the Netscape moment, it was big, right? The browser moment was big 30 years ago. ChatGPT moment was, suddenly, so big, impactful. But
and in between, there was the iPhone moment. There was the Tesla Model 3 moment. So there were many exciting things.
And then next there will be a carbonology moment. Yeah. So that, I think I would declare carbonology moment when my flight is empowered by the first jet fuel from your company.
Okay, maybe we'll have a special session on that flight.
Oh, we'll definitely, do that. Thank you very much, Robbie.
All right.
Okay.